everything? Alrighty. Well, good morning, everybody, and aloha. Aloha. Hi, guys. My name is Moana. I'm gonna be your guide this morning. Yes, like the princess. I know you were thinking it. Yes. Now on this tour, well, welcome to the Movie Sites and Ranch tour. On this tour, I'll be taking you guys into Kualoa Valley, where we have the bulk of our movie sites here at Kualoa Ranch. Along the way, though, we will be driving through Kualoa in order to get to the northern end of our property. So as we drive along the way, there will be a few sites and stops that I'll be making for you guys to take some photos, and I'll talk to you guys about those areas. We do have a few safety instructions for our guests, so whenever the vehicle is in motion, please stay seated. Now, I will be making stops throughout the way where you guys can take pictures. Whenever the vehicle is stopped and at a still, it's totally fine for you guys to get up in your seats. If there's any wiggle room and you guys want to move around, you guys can do so at those times. But whenever the vehicle is moving, please try to stay seated as much as possible. Also, we will be making 2 stops on the tours where you guys, or on this tour, where you guys will be able to get off of the bus. And at those stops, please just watch your step whenever you exit and enter the vehicle. Now, welcome to Kualoa. This area of Kualoa, or this valley, was the very first parcel of land to make up our property today. If you guys take a look here off to the left-hand side of us, we can see Kualoa Ridge here. This ridge here is where the valley gets its name from. It rises up to 1,900 feet at its highest point, and that peak is known as Kualoa.
Oh, they have an actual company that rents them. SmartCarRentals.com.
But everything that we now see today all began back in the 1800s when a man by the name of Dr. Garrett P. Judd came to the islands in 1828. He came here to serve as a missionary, but the longer he stayed here, the more and more he fell in love with the islands, the people, and the culture, and eventually decided to make this area his permanent home. So he purchased Kualoa, bought all 622 acres for $1,300. A little later after that, the Judds built a sugar mill on their new property, and we're going to see the remnants of it very soon off to the right-hand side of the bus. So this sugar mill was built with a bunch of lava rocks stacked upon one another. Little pieces of crushed coral and cement were used to make the bind or the seal in between, or the mortar in between all of those rocks. So that's what we now see here off to our right-hand side. You guys want to take some photos? Unfortunately, though, for the Judds, the land around this area is fairly dry, so sugarcane did not flourish at all. And so it was pretty impossible to produce enough sugar to make a good profit. So the Judds decided to close down the sugar mill after just 8 years of production. So it was open from 1863 to 1871. And after that, they decided to join the cattle ranching industry, which is where we still are today. So we still have this structure here on the right, just so you guys can take a look, for people to see. It was actually the very first sugar mill that was built on this island. So yeah, cool. We still have some parts of it today. Now we are on the movie tour, so we got some movie stuff going on right now. I don't know about you guys, but that looks like a Triceratops to me. So off to the right hand side, this is I wouldn't necessarily call it like a base for a movie site, but this is kind of what it looks like. They got like a bunch of different equipment all around, making their way, working through different areas to film whatever scenes that they need. They always have guys on standby, like those guys there on the left hand side, to watch the equipment. It's kind of what it's like behind the scenes. We're just not actually watching it.
This is the leftovers from the next Jurassic Park.
Going back to the ranch, cattle ranching, they started in the late 1800s. We're still working cattle ranch today with a little over 500 head of cattle. We'll get to see some of our cattle throughout the way, so I'll tell you guys more about what we do with them at that point in time. But just know the ranch is still owned by descendants of the Judds, so it's been a part of the family since the very beginning. They're now known as the Morgan family, though, so it's run by John Morgan, and he's like the president of the company now. But the whole family has like shares and stuff within the company. Now, another really important time period, or significant time period in the history of the ranch, was during World War II. So it's kind of hard to think that there was any connection, right, between Pearl Harbor, the On the same day that Pearl Harbor was bombed, a few other areas on this island were bombed as well. One of them was the Kualoa Marine Corps base right here on the right side, or sorry, the east side of the island. And then the second one was a Schofields base up in the northwest. So because of that incident here on the east side, the military wanted to keep a watchful eye on their windward base, causing them to come here to Kualoa and seize the land for the duration of the war. So during the time period of World War II, this area was actually a temporary military base. So the war, or not the war, but the military had cut down all the trees, all the tall grass here in the area. They had built a bunch of bunkers throughout the property, as well as a 6,500 foot landing strip right along the coast of Kualoa Valley. And they also had a bunch of like airplanes. Makeshift hangars were built so that way the airplanes could be stored and kind of kept safe and kind of out of the way. So the airplanes would have been parked along the mountainside, which is what we see here, kind of right in front of us right now. At the foot of Kualoa Ridge, there's a bunch of hangars or half circles dug out of the side of the mountain, and the airplanes will be parked there. On the coastline is where the 6,500 foot landing strip was located. It was massive, but we actually still have pieces of the landing strip today, so you guys will get to see some of that very soon. And then the bunkers. The bunkers are, I think, would be like the most noticeable structures that were left behind. We'll get to see this one here off to the right hand side of us, that little cubicle there. That's like the smallest one that we have nowadays. It gets bigger as we keep going on. So no worries, you guys will have better views as we go along. So just imagine though, in this area, all the tall trees and all the grass was all cut down. From here, the military had a nice clear view of the Pacific Ocean, of the horizon. They could easily see if anyone was to come towards us and cause any damage. So that's basically what their purpose was just to look out for this side of Oahu. But as we continue on, we're going to eventually reach the largest bunker that we have on the property. It is called Battery Cooper. Battery Cooper was dug into the side of the mountain, or built out of the side of the mountain. So it's massive. It goes 120 feet deep into Kualoa Ridge, and there's two entrances to it. So we'll be passing by it very soon. Eventually on the tour, we will be stopping at Battery Cooper, and you guys will have a chance to take a look around and take a look inside. But for now, we have these smaller bunkers. I would say maybe like medium-sized bunkers right over here, once again off to our right. So some of the bunkers were used as lookouts, others were used as storage rooms, while others were used as gun emplacements. Gun emplacements are where soldiers would go to get into position whenever they had to use their guns. Okay, but this first one here directly off to our right, this one was used as a lookout. While this second one was used as a storage room, there's also another storage room off to our left-hand side as well. And then lastly, this other one here on the right-hand side, this one was used as the gun emplacement. So we have about 15 to 20 of these bunkers left all throughout the property. You guys will get to see them. Even if you go towards, or onto the jungle tour and go towards Hakipu'u, there's still other structures there on that side. Now, they're only found in Kualoa. Thankfully, the other valleys of Hakipu'u and Ka'aba were not used. That way, the Judds could continue their cattle ranching business. So, everything that we see here today began in Kualoa, right? But over the time span of 30 years, the Judds were able to buy the adjoining valleys of Ka'aba and Hakipu'u. So, altogether, we now cover a little over 4,000 acres. But as I said, at that time, they could use those two other valleys for their cattle ranching. So they didn't change business necessarily. They could still kind of make some money and some income for their families while the military was here in Kualoa. Just know that this area here on the left-hand side, this first portion of the bunker, is where we have a bunch of World War II memorabilia. So after the military left, they took all their equipment away. We then filled it with a bunch of memorabilia that we've been able to gather throughout the years or collect from different like employees and stuff like that. So World War II memorabilia are on that side. This second portion is filled with movie, like props and posters and a bunch of information from movies and film. So you can see a lot of our movie information here.
Maybe we watch that together. I have it.
Of the bunker. Now another thing too I want to point out though is in front of each entrance we can see these large circles. That is where the military had a bunch of, not a bunch, that's actually the wrong word, huge guns mounted. Okay, so there's 2 of them in total. Thank you. Thank you. So 2 of them in total. They are known as 6-inch rapid fire guns. Each gun shot 4 rounds per minute, and each round could go 15 miles out. So it was definitely used for coastal defense. They could protect this side of the island from a very, very far distance, but thankfully they never ever had to use those guns in any particular battle situation. So they were there, and then the military took them back, or took them home with them when they left. And then that's when we filled in those huge holes where those guns were once mounted, and that's what we now see today as the large black circles in front of each entrance. Now up to the right-hand side of us, we have this beautiful view here of the forefront of Kualoa Valley. This valley of Kualoa was the second valley or parcel of land to make up our property, purchased in 1860 by Charles Hastings Judd. He bought all 2,200 acres of the valley for $4,000. Now, as we get to the center of the valley, you guys will see why it's become really popular in movies and film. There's, of course, beautiful scenery here. It's very easily accessible as well. And there's like a lot of space where the crews can move all their heavy equipment around. So what we saw earlier with the Triceratops crop, like that's nowhere near as much of the equipment that they're bringing into the valley or into different areas. So there's just so much. So as you can see, you know, with the size of the valley being so big, we have a few entrances into here. So it's very easy for the crew to bring all of the heavy equipment and cameras into different areas very easily. Now we're going to be diving through the forefront first to our diversified agriculture section. This department here, diversified agriculture, is filled with a bunch of different things, hence the name diversified ag. But things like oysters, shrimp, cattle, fish, crops, a bunch of things like that. And so, you know, here at Kualoa Ranch, we have a little over, as I said, 4,000 acres. We decided to dedicate this area to focusing on the crabs and a lot of the fish that we were going to grow in different ponds found right here in the valley. We do have a shrimp farm, just a little one. We have oysters that we cultivate out of our fish pond on the southern end of our property. Our beef, definitely from all the cattle that we'll soon see around us. But in this area here, we have just a few different items throughout the way. So I'll tell you guys about them as we go. But before we reach any of the ponds, there will be an opportunity to see a really endangered species. So this is of a bird. It's called the alai-ula. The alai-ula is native to the islands. It's highly endangered. There's a little less than 300 left in the wild. And so in this area, they usually frequent this area because it actually had a lot more trees than this, like off to the right-hand side of us. So these birds are naturally very secretive and very shy. It looks like it's a little bit smaller than a duck with really, a really bright red beak and all black feathers. So here to the right-hand side of the bus, we can see this helpful photo of it. And they usually hang out in this area off to the right or left-hand sides of us. So if anyone sees the alai-ula, feel free to let me know. We can stop. You can take more photos if you want. Honestly, being that they're so shy and so exposed now, it's kind of really hard, like on them, because they don't really like it. So they usually kind of swim away or walk away whenever they hear buses come. Does anyone see them? No? It's a no-go, huh? Sorry, guys. The idea was that some of the trees would be cut back so that way they would be easily in sight, but that just caused the birds to go away even more. So, we got the picture though. That's about it. Sometimes here too. Let's see on the right hand side. No, I don't see it when this area was being developed, 8 of these birds were actually found to live right here in Kualoa. Really interesting. No one would have expected that to be here, but they found a nice little area with a lot of vegetation, so they could, hide amongst the bush. But the more and more that we go and visit, it seems like the more they're starting to run away. So I think they probably found a different home here. Now on the left-hand side of us, we have these ponds here. We've given you guys also helpful signs to let you guys know what we plan to grow inside of here, if not already. And so the shrimp we have, the goby fish we have here, channel catfish we got going on right now. Up ahead we'll have grass carp. So all these different items, we eventually plan to sell to restaurants and farmers markets, maybe kind of just advertise about them in farmers markets, or also right here in our property. Now, as we continue to use our own resources,